It's 6.
Good evening and welcome to the Monday, June 16th meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission. We'll start with a roll call. Chair Lisa Hanson, present. Vice Chair Jacob Miller.
Present.
Alder Jim Hutchinson.
Present.
Commissioner Darius Daniels.
Present.
Commissioner Ken Rubinsky.
Present.
Commissioner Emma Fullwilder. Present. And Commissioner Kelsey Lutzow is excused. No, she's there! Hi, well, she's also present. Oh, I guess you could say present.
I guess I don't have to know.
Right, okay, all right. All right, moving on to approval of the agenda. Approval of the agenda for the Monday, June 16th, 2025 meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Vice Chair Miller, second by Commissioner Daniels. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to approval of minutes. Approval of the minutes from the May 12th, 2025 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Vice Chair Miller, second by Commissioner Daniels. All those in favor? Any opposed? And then moving on to regular business. Election of officers.
Why don't I handle the chair?
Mhm.
Okay, let's start with that. Are there any nominations for the chair?
I would nominate Lisa Hanson.
A second.
We have a nomination for Lisa, a second. Are there any other nominations for chair? Any other nominations for chair?
I move we close nominations.
Is that something you can do?
I don't know if you need to. I don't think I have.
Oh,
Being no other nominations.
Just been 3 times, you know, come on now.
Being no other nominations for chair, all those in favor of Lisa Hanson remaining as chair, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Back to you,
This is
chair.
where I fight all my enemies, right?
That part.
Who's opposed? All right, so now we are looking for a nomination for vice chair. Can I nominate as chair?
Yeah.
I think you do other
Yeah.
things. Okay, yeah. I'd like to nominate Jake Miller for vice chair.
Second. Thanks, Ken.
All right. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are
It's
there any
okay
other
if there
nominations?
is. It's okay.
Right. We're free. Nobody's looking to fight us on this. All right, then we gotta vote. Oh, thank you. All right. All those in favor of Jacob Miller for vice chair?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, and then secretary?
Same thing.
Okay, I'd like to nominate you.
Staff.
I highly recommend.
Right, I'd like to nominate staff is what I'd like to
Oh, so can we
nominate.
do that as just staff? Can we use that website?
Hey, what is it exactly? It's secretary.
I would nominate the Director of Community Economic Development, and then she can designate.
Okay.
Right. You're
How about
good.
that?
Well,
Second, if there wasn't a second.
Yeah.
Who's?
I first did,
Me.
vice chair.
Any other nominations?
Yeah, are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? All right, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then that motion carries.
There you go.
Moving on to item number 2, which is a public hearing. And is it the Press Gazette or the Press Times again? I have 2 different papers. We're back to Press Times again? Okay, I thought somebody gave me a new paper, so I just want to make sure. Okay. It still says Press Gazette. Okay, never mind. This public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Press Times. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, whether you favor, oppose, or only providing information in this matter, and your comments or concerns. We also ask that you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearing, and questions raised by the public may be asked, but they will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the Plan Commission in order to speak, and please address your comments to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and we will now open the public hearing on item number 2. Public hearing on a request for a conditional use permit for a concrete, asphalt, and rock crushing facility in the General Industrial District on property located in the 1300 block of Hurlbut Street, submitted by James Wolf Jr. of Verbiker on behalf of Martel Development LLC, property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as mentioned, this is to establish a concrete, asphalt, and rock crushing facility. Here is a street view of what the property looks like. Pretty much just Phragmites. And if you want to go to the next. So for the future land use, the part of the property is has the future land use of general industry. And then the blue area is actually identified as school, which it shouldn't be. I think it's just a color error. So it should probably be other public or semi-public because everything is owned by either Brown County or the city of Green Bay. So, but regardless, the property does have the general industry future land use on it. And then, sorry, if you want to scoot back. And then everything around it, you can kind of see what's happening there with the interstate is just to the south. For zoning, the whole area is zoned general industrial. And to the north and west, that whole area is the Brown County Yard Waste site, just to put some context to it. So in the general, you can go to the next. So this is a site plan for the proposed project. The property is located in the general industrial district. In this district, you need a conditional use permit. And then when we look at the conditional use permit, there are different criteria that need to be met. You want to go here. And these are the 7 criteria. Basically, we have to make sure that it's not going to be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, or general welfare. That the conditional use will not impede normal and orderly development and improvements of surrounding property. That its architectural design will work within the neighborhood and not diminish any property values, that there's adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, necessary facilities are being provided, adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide ingress and egress, to minimize traffic congestion, and that there's adequate parking facilities. So after reviewing the plan, if you want to go back up to the site plan, it has I guess I shouldn't say the recommendation yet, but basically everything around it is similar to what this use is going to be. There is construction, actually Martel has their offices further down the road on Hurwell, so not too far away. And then with the Brown County Yard Waste and with the interstate adjacent to it, you don't have any conflicts of neighbors like you would if it were closer to residential homes or commercial uses. So with that, that's all I have.
Okay. So with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who'd like to speak on this item. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this item? Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 3. Consideration with possible action on a request for a conditional use permit for a concrete, asphalt, and rock crushing facility in the general industrial district on property located on the 1300 block of Hurlbut Street, submitted by James Wolf Jr. of Verbiger on behalf of Martel Development LLC, property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the surrounding area contains uses similar in intensity and is far from any residential uses where a conflict could arise. Staff has determined that the use does comply with the 7 standards of the CUP. We did notify Alder DeLee and adjacent property owners within 400 feet, and we've received no inquiries. We do recommend approval, but with 2 conditions. That the concrete, asphalt, and rock crushing facility must have a permanent indoor restroom and wash station on site, meeting zoning, building, and plumbing code requirements. And 2, that there's compliance with all other regulations of the Green Bay Municipal Code.
Okay.
So in this area, this is our heavy industrial area. So, throw that out there. If there was any place we would want heavy industrial, this is it.
This is it, okay.
Unless we get complaints from all the Fragmites.
Right, they might not be in treatment.
Yeah.
Those are like cattails, if you don't know.
I don't know what those are. What?
They're like cattails.
Oh.
But they're invasive.
It was a
so-
joke.
Right, it's not funny when you have to explain it to me, right? Yeah, my bad.
Motion to approve as recommended. Second.
All right, motion by Commissioner Vinsky, second by Vice Chair Miller. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, and then that will go forward to City Council, is it the 24th? Is the next meeting, June 24th? Yep. All right, moving on then to item number 4, which is another public hearing. I don't have to read that again? I'm not reading it
You
again?
do not need to read it again.
Okay. All right, item number 4, which is a public hearing on a request to amend the Smart Growth 2022 Comprehensive Plan for the 2100 block of Deutschert Street from future medium-high density residential land use to low-density residential land use, submitted by James Wolf Jr. of Verbicker on behalf of Broadway Realty LLC, property owner.
Thank you, Chair. So the area you're looking at is on the east side, just north of Preble High School. On the west side of the property is Highland Park Avenue. On the east side is at Deutschert Street. It's a very small road that leads into North Sands Avenue. To the north, you see a WPS substation. To the west, you see apartments. So the existing future land use for the property is medium to high density housing. It's a 10.1 acre site, typical for a campus style housing development, which you do see off to the west and to the south of the property. Surrounding it is a hodgepodge as well of other future land uses, including low density residential, commercial, and other public and semi-public nearby. Next. So the existing zoning on the site is R3, very density residential. Your typical use on that would be multifamily. You see that surrounding the site with the exception of OR for the Red Crosses up to the southeast. And then surrounding that would be more R1 zoning for typical single-family homes. So some background on the property itself. This is a view from Highland Park, looking to the northeast at the southwest corner of the property. You're going to see quite a few trees, green space, vegetation. On the east side of the property, you're going to see a terminus of Deutschert Street. I don't know the exact pronunciation.
Oh, okay, I was listening to you. I'm going to go
Yeah.
with Deutschert, I think.
So over here, this comes off of Dan's and a roadway could go through and connect back over to Highland Park off to the west. But at the moment, it just terminates. There is no cul-de-sac that exists there. The road just stops. Next slide, please. So we're looking at a request here to change the future land use destination from medium to high density, which it currently is, to a low density housing use here. So for medium to high density housing, that includes things like townhomes, 4, 6, 8 unit buildings, apartments. It's usually located where there's good traffic access and low density housing and non-residential land uses around the area. Density higher than 8 units per acre. Request is to have this to become low density housing. Your typical single families, throwing some 2 families in there as well. Allowable densities range from approximately 4 to 8 units per acre, and then lot sizes from 5,000 to 13,000 square feet per acre. So the applicant has come forth with a conceptual site plan, which this board and the council are not voting on the site plan itself. There's no site plan, but just to give an idea of what could be done in this property. Their intent is to go forward with something very similar to this, if not this exact layout, but we're not considering that. But this is an idea for us to say, okay, what would happen out here if this was changed? So the overall site is noted, 10.1 acres. There is a utility that runs through the eastern part. There's some transmission lines of areas where you cannot develop. And there's also a need for stormwater, which in this case, the conceptual proposal is to have a stormwater pond, which is also taking up some space. We'll also lead then to some connectivity back from Highland Park, back to Dutcher, which will lead to Dan's Avenue, having some access for people who live over on Mills and other neighboring streets, back over to Dan's, which is a collector road that goes north-south over the neck of the woods. Conceptually, 4.1 units per acre, lot sizes ranging from 5,300 to 15,000 square feet, with lot widths around 52 to 76 feet. So to just give a background, like, okay, why this, why now? Why should this be considered? Next slide, please. The neighborhood has a lot of transition to it. Generally speaking, the intensity with the higher density homes goes from west to east. You have your multi-families and larger groups to the west. As you transition to the east, you have a more single-family neighborhood. As you keep on going further east towards Bear Creek Parkway, you have lot sizes that get larger and larger as they were developed later and later in life. A lot of the home sites and parcels around this area are of a World War II era type housing, smaller lot sizes. So some examples around here as far as what's in the neighborhood. Berlin Street's just located to the east of Dan's. What you see down that way would be a typical arrangement of single-family homes. When you see Dan's Avenue on the left side or the east side, that is your low-density housing. On the west side, that's medium high density. All that said, though, they're pretty similar in nature. And when you look at the view of Highland Park and Mills, which is at the southwest corner of the site, you're now going to see an apartment complex located down to the south and an apartment complex off to the west. When reviewing this, you're seeing, okay, are there transitions? Does this make sense in the overall scope of things? And so we'll have a recommendation at the public hearing, but those are the things that we're looking at overall for, is there a merit to have a concept of single-family homes or something like that in this area? Does it make sense in the context of the overall neighborhood?
Okay. All right, so now with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who'd like to speak on this item. Yep. Go ahead.
Is the floor?
Yeah, go ahead, Joshua.
Okay, my name is Joshua Schwalbe, 232 North Danes Avenue. I'd like to say I'm also speaking on behalf of Cindy and Stephen Schwalbe. They had a family thing to attend to, so they couldn't make the meeting. We'll speak on 4, 5, 6, and 7. 4 and 5 I don't have any opposition to. I think it fits the neighborhood. But as the plan has been presented, our house is immediately across the street from Dutcher. So if the proposed plan goes through, we're opposed to the road connecting through to North Danes Avenue. I wanted to bring a couple of points up on that sense. We understood that when we bought the house that we would be across the street from Dutcher, and there would be a possibility of the road being connected eventually, but this brings a road pretty much ending at our doorstep, which might have some safety concerns. So I would say that we should pay special attention to a traffic study about the area. A little history from living there a long time. It's immediately between Preble High School and Dan's Elementary School. And when Preble High School gets out, the character of the traffic on Dan's Avenue is pretty terrible. It takes us about an hour to get out of our driveway. So increasing the traffic on that section with another access, with another road, might pose some safety hazards and also but have a lot more congestion. So we're really concerned about how it's going to be designed, that the road terminates pretty much at our doorstep on our house. One of the pictures that was presented for Dusher, you could pretty much take that picture from our front window just to get a perspective of where our house is in the scheme of things. So again, if a traffic study is done, I would say right now is not time to do it because school is out. So I would say the traffic study might need to be done when Preble High School is in session because the high school students increase the traffic in the area pretty substantially. On a positive note, I think this is a great development. I think it's a great space for the development. The density is perfect for the area, kind of mirrors the high density, the low density, kind of merging together. But also, I'd love to answer any questions about the general character of the area or what I've heard from the neighbors in the district about the development as well.
All right, thank you so much. Was there anyone else wishing to speak on this item?
Hi, my name is Diane Oldall. Did I?
Right here.
Oh,
We're very.
gonna make me feel so important.
Place to set your phone here all today.
I live on Dan's Avenue. I'm on the other side of the red brick house by Dutchert.
And the street address, please?
Oh,
What is-
251 North Dan's Avenue.
Thank you.
Sorry. And my main concern is like, as Josh and his family, about the traffic. It's unbelievable. And the accidents that take place on Dan's Avenue while Preble is in session, it's actually hazardous. So I noticed that a traffic count has been taken, but I would like to suggest that it's done while Preble is in session, and then you would get a far more accurate count. Otherwise, I'm in favor of the proposal. It's just, that street is just, like Josh said, it's going to be a safety hazard. And not only for people driving, but walking too. I've had a car up on my front lawn. I've had several accidents take place in front of the house this past winter. So, and then on Morrow Street by the railroad tracks, there's a lot of issues. So please reconsider Dutchert and come up with perhaps another plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item?
Hi, my name is Maggie Alk. I live at 321 Highland Park Avenue, and if you're aware of the area, it's the Parkway Landing Senior Living. So that's right on Highland Park Avenue at Morrow and Mills. And at this point, Morrow is a big thoroughfare. There's, trucks all the time, which is, I'm not happy about. I just moved there in the last few months, and there's a lot of traffic all day long, evening, and, if my windows are open, I can't even hear the TV. It's a little aggravating. And I'm really concerned about the traffic. I'm really concerned about all the trucks that are already going there, and then now a lot. And there'll be more with construction. So that'll be going on all day during construction. I'm not against the housing development per se. I think it's a better idea than some high-rise there. I am concerned with the WPS towers. And I am a nature lover. So I love all the trees. It's such a wonderful habitat for animals. I'm always seeing deer there. And so I'm concerned about, the trees being bulldozed. The traffic on Dan's is already bad, and as my neighbor has said, the railroad track area, that's really a concern. I've had some close calls there myself, and I'm a careful driver. But, so my concern is traffic and the loss of the natural habitat, and I moved there because of the habitat and all the trees. And my senior neighbors, they're not here tonight, that we are renters, but I appreciate being notified, even though I'm not a property owner, but we have 3 beautiful buildings of senior living there, wonderful people, and I'm not the only one concerned about this. It is, low density is better than medium or high density, I understand that, but I'm just voicing my concerns about the traffic, all the trucks, there's already so much truck traffic, it's really aggravating, to say the least, and so, that's all I think I had to say.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 5. Consideration with possible action on a request to amend the Smart Growth 2022 Comprehensive Plan for the 2100 block of Duchert Street from future medium-high density residential land use to low-density residential land use, submitted by James Wolf Jr. of Verbiker on behalf of Broadway Realty LLC, property owner.
Thank you. I'll address some of the concerns brought up by folks in the neighborhood. With the context that we're not approving a site plan or plat. Now, I'll note, as far as what our zoning code, our existing comp plan, and presumably our future comp plan will call for, is connectivity. Connectivity on streets. And when we see a road like Duchert that was built with the intention to keep on going to the west and can connect back to a neighborhood over at Highland Park and other streets like Village and Mills and Berger, and have them have access points back to a major road like Dan's as it turns into Bader, is something that staff needs to go for. Anecdotally, there are actual quantitative points that go towards measuring sprawl and lack of connectivity. As a community, as a metro area, there are 221 metro areas. In 2014, Smart Growth America measured all the cities, the metro areas throughout the country. Green Bay ranks as 204th out of 221 for sprawl. They had different metrics as far as how do you do that. One of those metrics is connectivity. As this metro area, not just a city, but a metro area, we rank dead last in the nation. Things like this are why we have that, because we don't have connectivity that would be a normal connective road in a neighborhood. Now, you're not considering that here tonight, but just in general, want to be known, like, why would a staff be saying connect Duchert back over towards the area over at Highland Park? That's why. The road was there to have a connection in the future, and it's leading to...
The development just never happened.
It hasn't happened. Now, I was going to note this as well here when we get to our rezone discussion as well. But the request here is calling for 4 to 8 units per acre. I'll note that with this having a connection and access to Duchert on this, in the way that the existing future land use and zoning is right now, somebody could by right come in here and put in multifamily, put in apartments. Based on the size of this property, with 1-bedroom units, you could put in upwards of 293 units at 1 bedroom. That's 29.1 units per acre. Or if you're going to what conceptually is being proposed with this, with being 2-bedroom single families, you could do 219 2-bedroom units or 21.7 units per acre. Just note the traffic with that would be obviously much larger. So as looking at the transitions in this neighborhood, multifamily is not necessarily a bad thing here. It has merit, but so does the low density here. So staff sees as far as transition goes that the request has merit, and so with that, staff is recommending the change in land use destination from medium to high density to low density as requested.
Okay, thank you. Is there a recommendation? Did it pop up and I missed it?
Yeah, it did.
You want to say it
Briefly,
again?
it was so
Yeah.
quick, you're so quick.
Sorry.
I was looking at the map.
There you go.
22, approval, look at that. All right. So yeah, I mean, I saw something net acre versus gross acre, but I feel like I'm splitting hairs at that point. But we're talking about, because you said 219 single-family homes.
So 219 two-bedroom units for apartments. So bedrooms.
Oh, if they, okay,
Yeah.
293 if it was one bedroom, 219 if it was
And mind you,
two-bedroom.
this is a zoning
Okay.
code discussion.
Right, that was just a
so-
question, I got confused about that, I'm like, how is it 219 single-family houses fit on there? I'm
Right.
not seeing this
No,
right,
it's-
oh my
it's a
goodness.
zoning code discussion, we're talking about future land use, so get more specificity on that.
So, I
But-
know there's not a site plan, but about generally, like, what they're talking about, how many houses are gonna, I mean, how many?
41.
41, okay. Versus we could have 293 or 219, or,
If you, I mean, for anybody who's doing that within the context of the zoning code,
Right.
you would have to find every last possible way to maximize
right. this-
parking and impervious surfaces.
But that
and
could go,
setbacks.
something like that could go through without coming through us at all.
Correct.
So this is only coming through us because they want single-family
They wanna move
houses.
to low density.
It's because it's
Right.
a zoning,
Okay.
it's a request.
So they're
land
asking
use
for
and
much
zoning.
less, what we want is 219 or 293, and they want 41.
Well, the code,
Ish.
this goes back to a zoning code discussion, but
Right.
that's what you, I want to give you what you could max out at. That is
No,
what.
that's right, no, I appreciate that.
Worst case scenario.
It's not even worst case, but I just, when we're talking about intensity, this has been brought up, this is a way to look at it. I mean,
No,
you can come forth, the neighbors who are in those other apartment buildings are not at the max that you could have for a site.
Okay.
They're simply not. But they are more than 4.1 units per acre.
Yeah.
That's without a doubt.
I know this is not a site plan, but I'm looking at Google Maps, that's what we're looking at, and there is was power station
Yeah.
or something?
a substation that it-
Oh, it's a substation. Can you, I can look at it, but there's ample room on the front and the back, or north and the south, or east and west, I don't know, the variation of this, so that won't be impacted, correct?
In the conceptual layout, you
Conceptual.
see, they show that they don't have units happening in that area.
Okay.
Or
There's also a
parcels in that
substantial
area.
buffer there. When we rezoned it for that use, they put in a landscape berm,
Berm.
bunch
Oh,
of stuff.
Okay. Probably just can't
We
see it.
required that, didn't we?
Yeah. Okay.
Planning commission sure did. Good job, guys.
The substation is obviously a separate parcel.
Right.
It is buffered. And this is, as John had mentioned, it's kind of opposite of what you're used to. It's usually people that are in a low density area are requesting
To
higher
high.
density.
Mhm.
This is a little
Yeah.
unique, not unique, but maybe unique for the last couple of years.
I'll say, this is unique in the sense as far as the mixture of different uses out here. You're seeing a lot of apartments and singles and twos and public spaces working well together. It's a transitional area.
Yeah. And this street, Deuce,
Duchert
Duchert.
is what the neighbors were calling it,
Is
go
this,
there.
that's already there, it's just gonna continue straight conceptually?
Conceptually, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The floor is closed.
Oh, I thought because it was another item, number 5.
No. We're on a different item and the floor is closed.
Yeah.
John, help me with the grading on the site. I was trying, oh, there it is. There's a little bit of elevation change down. I don't know the directions, but stormwater concerns at all? I know we're right by the floodway.
Yeah, it's near it, but it's not that close. They have stormwater as it drains down closer to Bear Creek, like the development, up to the engineers to figure a way to make it work, but nothing that was jumping up the site.
All right, I feel like I'm getting hung up on details that aren't necessarily part of this, amending the smart growth, the comprehensive plan. I'm thinking about like lot sizes and stuff, and it fits the neighborhood, but that's not our purview.
Next.
Right, that's it,
one,
yeah. So this is just the, we're talking about the comprehensive plan.
Move to approve as recommended. Second.
Motion by Vice Chair Miller, second by Commissioner Rubinski. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, and then that will move forward for City Council for June 24th. Moving on to the next item, which is also a public hearing. public hearing on a request to rezone the 2100 block of Dutchert Street from varied residential district to low-density residential district, submitted by James Wolf Jr. of Verbiker on behalf of Broadway Realty LLC property owner.
Thank you, Chair. So the request is to go from R3 to R1. R3 is your typical multifamily, R1 is just your typical low density, typically single family lots. We'll get into some different scenarios here with this, coming up. You're seeing the same future land use and zoning map, and so we get into the conceptual of the site. The site itself, like I said, 10.1 acres, 41 parcels. Your lot size is 5,300 to 1,500, that's matching the comp plan. Lot width, so 52 to 76 feet. Also matching comp plan, but it's not matching typical zoning. Now, our R1 zoning is our default. It's what we have around us here, even in the neighborhoods that are built out. And so the overall, when you look at other sites that are nearby it that have of a similar nature, you're going to see R1 zoning. Now, this is a 10.9 acre site that is directly to the east. It's 40 parcels. You see 36 single families, you see 4 duplexes, which equals another 8 10 units, 44 in total, 4.05 units per acre, very similar in nature. All those lots there, or for the most part, they're in a non-conforming state. Because the code says for R1, minimum lot size, 75 feet. That's the minimum. That's for R1. That's what's been requested as R1. In reviewing this area is of very nature that is RT does fit. Can we go back to the previous slide? Sorry, not that. Let's go to slide 28 just right now. So with R2 requirements, you're at 5,000 square feet per lot. In R1, it calls for 7,500. Most of those lots back to that area to the east, not conforming.
Okay.
With minimum lot size for single-family dwellings inside of R2, it's 45 feet. Most of those lots don't meet it. They're at 60 or so, or we go to that slide 27. That's the neighboring, or that's the back to the west. Those parcels are between 53 and 60 feet in width. They meet code for R2. They don't meet it for R1. And this is a transitional area. Remember, so if you keep on going further to the east, along Remington and back towards Bear Creek, you definitely find a more suburban R1 feel out that way, because those lots were developed in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and these are developed for it. So if we go back to slide 28, thank you. For impervious surface, that does bump up to becoming 60% within R2. In the conceptual drawings that were put forth, they were right at that number for 50%. And within R3, if you were developing that into a more multifamily campus, your max impervious becomes 70%. So this is kind of an in-between type of count. Now, there's no specific unit count attributed to the zoning code for R1, R2. We're going back to our comp plan, 4 to 8 units per acre. Their conceptual is 4.1 units per acre. That's what you're seeing in neighboring neighborhoods nearby with both streets and with potentially some open areas. Keep in mind with this one has narrower lots that they're showing here, but you have to account for the easement area for the overhead lines, and then unlike neighborhoods of the past where they didn't have stormwater accounted for, this has a stormwater pond in it. And you wouldn't see that in the neighborhoods we're showing back to the east and the west. And then this is a unit count, just to give a heads up as far as what could you do on the site right now as far as the way it's zoned with R3. Either that 219 or 293 max is what you can do. So it's based off of square footage of the overall parcel. You add 500 square feet more as your minimum amount of square footage for every bedroom. So if you happen to have nothing but 3 bedroom units, it'd be more like 150 units per acre, something like that. But if we're talking the mix of 1s and 2s, probably somewhere around 250 is what you could do on the site if you can meet all the rest of the requirements for impervious surface, parking, and setbacks. So this is definitely a lower count, but when looking around the neighborhood, so if you go to the next one, as far as transitions, R1 is your typical default for single-family homes, but realistically in a lot of infill environments, R2 is how it actually has been built out. And the concept of what is being shown here is for R2. And that still meets what was put forth from the low-density smart growth plan as far as the future land use, getting to that 4 to 8 unit per acre parameter that is typical of lower density homes. I'll note just from before, as far as comments I didn't mention here between the comp plan and this rezone, there was a neighborhood meeting that was held back in early May for the site. There were about 10 people who showed up to that meeting. We did have some comments, or I should say more questions from neighbors. We received about 4 calls over the past week or so. Did not have any formal yay or nay, but just more what's going on in this field that's been here for ages. And I see the signs. So the signs is working this for folks to call in. And that's where we're at.
I have questions, but this is the public hearing, so. All right, so at this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who'd like to speak on this item.
Maggie Alk again. One thing I forgot to mention about Dan's Avenue, it's really a major thoroughfare between University and Mason and Main. So people going to the business district on Main and that whole area, that's a lot of traffic. So not only when school gets out, when school starts, and when the factories get out and the workers are coming and people are going to the business district, you know, you've got East Town Mall and everything near there. I feel like it probably could become stop-and-go traffic. And if you know stop-and-go traffic, it's aggravating, drivers get aggravated, you pollute more because you're stopping and you're going, you're stopping and you're going. And so that's one concern of mine. Another concern is the EMF waves from the towers that are on that property. I don't know if that's been addressed. I don't know a lot about EMF, but all those power lines, I don't know what that might be emitting and what danger that is to people who might live there. And I was going to clarify, Dushirt, I don't think it'll become a thoroughfare to Highland Park Avenue, I hope. It seems like it's supposed to, as I understood, it's going to be an in and out from the development, but it's not going to be a throughway, I hope, to Highland Park Avenue. So if anybody can clarify that point. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item?
I'd like to add a little more.
Sure, go ahead.
Joshua Spalding, 232 North Dan's. Again, I'd really like to bring some emphasis to Dushirt being connected. I'm strongly opposed to the rezone if it is as the planning concept is. I think you know, I do have some formal planning education, and I completely understand connectivity, but it has to be taken into context. There are other ways to design and connect this neighborhood to Dan's Avenue without Dushirt. I know Dushirt looks like a softball and run that end, but the point where Dushirt will intersect Dan's Avenue is again, in my opinion, very dangerous. And I'd like to go on the record to say that our house being on the end of that street, there is absolutely nothing that I've seen in the designs that stop any kind of traffic from ending up in our kitchen. So maybe, I don't want to go too far into pretending like I'm an engineer, but connecting the road at Deer Trail, if you're familiar with the map, might be a better option. Again, I understand completely where staff is coming from, saying that connectivity is a very important part of planning. It's in the smart growth plan that connectivity should be considered very heavily when making these kinds of decisions. I know that it lists Dan's Avenue as a minor arterial street, but again, I would really strongly advise you to look at the plan and to put some safety measures in when the school session is in, so you can get a full picture of when the traffic is the worst and most dangerous 5 days out of the week when Bethel High School gets out. I have been hit just trying to turn left into my driveway twice, but I don't know if that really has much context here. Just from my personal experience, trying to turn left into my driveway, people aren't necessarily looking for traffic to stop in that area. Again, I might be opposed if the concept is as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 7. Consideration with possible action on a request to rezone the 2100 block of Duchert Street from varied residential district to low-density residential district, submitted by James Wolf Jr. of Verbiker on behalf of Broadway Realty LLC property owner.
Thank you, Chair. So to clarify again, the rezone itself does not look at what the site layout would do necessarily. This is showing a concept of what could happen. But noted that Duchert is there to connect a local street, to connect neighborhoods from the Mills area back over towards Dan's and that neighborhood. When we're reviewing this, why we think this is a favorable idea in part is because this is connecting the transitions between neighborhoods. This is allowing for an area back over towards Millage and Highland Park to connect back over to the east, and the folks back over towards Berwyn and to connect back over to the west and take advantage of cross connections in the area. But with all that said, staff does recommend a change here. Rather than the R1 zoning, staff recommends R2 zoning rather than the original request of R1 on the site. Keep in mind, the applicants requested R1, but in reviewing this further, we felt R2 was the more appropriate zoning based off of the conditions in the area surrounding this and the bulk requirements that are permitted within the R2 zoning district, such as lot sizes and lot widths.
Okay. So we're actually recommending R2, not R1?
Correct.
That was a question I had for the last part, because I was like, well, you're saying this all fits R2? Nope.
If it's CUP, yeah, is it CUP? No, if the rezone is approved, I know this is conceptual, will they have to come back for a plan commission with the actual drawing? No.
As long as you meet the requirements of R2, you come back and you plat out the overall developments to meet requirements of R2.
I think we'll see the plat though.
Oh, sorry.
Road dedication.
Thank you. Road dedication, you'll see the plat, yes, yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
So if we had concerns about the road itself going through there, that would be time to address that aspect, to be clear.
We would, that'd be time to question it, sure, yes, yes. We'd still go back to the idea of what our code and comp plan says, that it's pretty clear about the idea of connecting in a situation like this.
Sure.
Because right now conceptually, the road goes from.
Conceptually, there's not a plat on file for it at all. So there is no road within that.
The concept is giving everybody an idea, like, you could do this.
Yes, yeah. Exactly.
And let's be realistic about this too. This is what developers want to do. They want to do this, but we're not approving this site plan or plat right now.
Or just.
Right. That is always the danger with showing conceptual plans.
Because people.
So I got a question about that.
Sometimes the plan commission and often council people think that's what's going to be built.
Right.
No matter what, it's a straight zoning. Things can change, after the zone.
And they normally do change.
Sometimes not. It depends on the due diligence of the developer, right? I mean, if they've done all the research, sometimes it doesn't.
So the R2 is what allows us to go to the smaller lots?
Yes.
Okay, that's the difference, because technically this is R3, so we wanted denser, we're going to less dense, but we're going with smaller lots, so kind of we're getting a little bit more density conceptually.
Right, the transitional nature of this whole area, where you're still having a bit more density compared to a typical R1 low density, put it somewhere on a fringe of town where you're probably expecting lot sizes to be more
But
like.
this matches the existing better.
Yeah.
All right, so we're voting on R2.
Has that been run past the developer?
Yeah, I mean, if
I assume they would be okay with.
I didn't have to change the
Since it
agenda on
fits
that.
Correct.
better with the lots.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Question. I missed what Green Bay is dead last in. Could you repeat that?
So there's a measurement of sprawl that actually took qualitative numbers, like actually measuring out statistics for it. And so there's 221 metro areas, and they have it by metrics as far as like, one of the 4 metrics is connectivity of streets and neighborhoods, things of that sort. We're the worst in the nation as a metro area for connecting roads and streets, and that leads to sprawl.
Wow.
Or is a measurement
A
of
lot of
sprawl.
cul-de-sacs, a lot of cutoff roads,
Oh,
and
a lot of cars, okay.
or
Got it.
situations like this where the road never goes through.
Okay, now is the applicant cool with R2?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
That didn't come across clear. I know you discussed it with him, but,
If we went through with R1, there could be other leaps that have to go through for
Right.
this, to make this,
well,
This
according
idea
to
and
this
concept.
layout. I
yeah,
mean,
right.
again, if they do something different, they wouldn't have to do anything different for R1. If they wanted to go with this layout, R2 is the way to go.
And then, but I'll note, the whole conceptually, the overall one of units will go down, and it will be a different neighborhood compared to what is surrounding it.
Right.
That will become the very low-density neighborhood, surrounded by larger intensity uses around it.
Well, it's surrounded, from the discussion, they're surrounded by R2, right?
They're surrounded,
Technically,
right.
I mean, realistically, they are.
Lot size wise, and, yep.
Okay,
but
so they're surrounded by
single-
R2, even though it's designated R1, whatever.
Yes.
Okay,
And R2 does allow single-family uses by right as well. So
Right.
that zoning, isn't just, you only put duplexes.
Okay.
Singles.
now in terms, okay, we've heard the gentleman talk about the safety issue of people coming onto Dan's on this street that is partially there, right? The street exists, one property depth into the whatever.
Correct, it already exists right now.
Okay, so, I mean, and this is all hypothetical because that's not the way it's going in, but we're really talking about one block being connected to Dan's, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, if I lived in that house, I'd be concerned also, but there's just one block. It's not like a 5-block raceway coming in, right? Because what I'm hearing is speed, and also the fact people are gonna be just coming onto Dan's from that intersection.
It would allow, a future roadway that would connect back to Highland Park would allow people who live west of Highland Park to have a better connection to Dan's.
Right.
Which would lead to
Traffic.
more traffic than what's there now. Additionally, we don't know how many blocks will be there, but there's a limitation to it. So it might be a block, it might be 2 blocks
All
that
right.
be in there.
One or
Yeah.
2 blocks, whatever. Okay. Well, so to me, it's not a speed issue, because we have speed issues all over the place in Green Bay. But it is a traffic issue where people are now coming on where they haven't come on before, and there'll be issues there. And that may be a traffic issue for the traffic engineer of Green Bay, not necessarily. There's nothing we can do about it here. We're just dealing with zoning.
Well, and that T type of intersection, roadway intersection, is very common, especially in this area, in this metro area. If you just go directly to the east, right east of Dan's, 2 blocks, you have Savage Street, which stops on Deer Trail. Colt Court comes to a T onto Deer Trail.
Right.
Winchester does both on Deckner and on Browning. So, and I could just keep going. I mean, those T intersections are, drive around,
Right.
look when you go home today. They're all-
I understand. My wife and I ride our bikes on this, cutting across. And I can see where having this road there is gonna add a new dimension to our issues as we come through. So I just wanna identify, yeah, it's gonna change. Now, there's ways that I guess we can handle that change, but not through this. This is just rezoning, getting approval. I think overall what I heard, people are not against going to R1. I haven't heard anyone saying R1 or R2 from R3. Everything I heard about that is, yeah, that's okay. It's just the safety issues. So, and those safety issues are gonna have to be addressed. but we just don't do it here. But, so, I guess, I wish you could do everything at once, you can't, so you gotta do one step at a time. So I guess I'm totally in favor of this development, going from R3 to R2. And we'll have to work hard in the future for the other stuff, so I would move to approve.
I'll second that.
We've got a motion by Alder Hutchinson, a second by Commissioner Ravinsky. Any further discussion? Hearing no one, go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then that will move forward then to City Council for June 24th. Moving on to item number 8, which is a public hearing. Public hearing on amendments to section 44-1553 of the Green Bay Municipal Code, Chapter 44, related to historic preservation.
Thank you, Chair. Our historic preservation code lives within our zoning code, which is why you all get to be the approving body for any text amendments. These changes have been run through the Landmarks Commission and their staff, and they're supportive of them, so this is really just a formality. We are looking to extend the amount of projects that we can approve at a staff level versus the projects that have to go before the Landmarks Commission. So these would be the changes that we are recommending. Most of these just adding some things that over the 5+ years that we've been doing this, ones that we get repetitive applications that we're always giving the same condition or the same type of approval. Things that are considered more low impact on the properties. So all of these have been vetted through our staff and through Landmarks Commission, and everyone's comfortable with those changes. Additionally, we needed to clarify some of our language around when it can be approved by staff, when it's approved by Landmarks Commission, and when it can be approved by our director. So this language is just from our law department, cleaning that portion of it up. But pretty small amendments for this section of code.
All right, is there anyone who'd like to speak on this item? Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this item? Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 9. Consideration with possible action on amendments to section 44-1553 of the Green Bay Municipal Code, Chapter 44, related to historic preservation.
We are recommending approval of the request.
I have one question on new commercial signs.
Yes.
So regular sign code still applies, obviously.
Yes.
This would just be new commercial sign, like a brand new sign.
Brand new sign on a commercial building.
Okay.
Currently, they have to go before Landmarks Commission. However, our sign code hits so many of the provisions that most of us care about. What we care about is how it attaches to the building.
Okay.
And that is the same language we use throughout every single approval that we've done. So that's kind of how that goes through. We don't have any special provisions in our code about material types, base materials. We just default to the sign code.
Nice.
So it just kind of helps the businesses get a sign permit faster.
It's really drilling the holes in the mortar rather than the bricks.
Yes. It's literally the way.
I see.
Yes.
All right, cool. Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Vice Chair Miller, second by Commissioner Ravinsky. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then that will go to City Council for June 24th. Moving on to item number 10, and this is a public hearing. Public hearing on amendments to various sections of the Green Bay Municipal Code, Chapter 44, related to mail distribution facilities.
Thank you, Chair. So you may remember that a couple meetings ago, we had an application for a comp plan amendment and a rezoning along Main Street. That is one of our commercial corridors. It was a commercial zoning, wanted to change it industrial because a post office distribution center fell under our warehousing, wholesaling land use definition. Through a fairly robust discussion, we decided to take a crack at the text amendment to see if it would fit in. So I started researching other cities to see how they handle these and came up with the text amendment that was in your packet. I'll go over those points. So currently, we have, mail distribution falls under our wholesale and distribution facilities. In looking at what a mail distribution facility actually is, realizing it's a lot less wholesale heavy on the distribution. There's not a lot of storage associated with it, there's not a lot of product associated with it. If something comes in, it gets sorted, it goes out. So part of the amendment process would be to add a new land use definition. So the definition would be an establishment designated for receiving, processing, and distributing mail and packages for the purposes of delivery. So this would, FedEx, whatever, any sort of mail that has that as its main use. In looking at our existing zoning codes, we wanted to make sure that this would fit in properly with the descriptions that we have for our zoning codes. So we've become familiar with our zoning districts by seeing the applications that come forward here, but we actually have definitions within our zoning code for what each of them are supposed to be for. So in reading those, we determined that if it's going to be in a commercial district, that highway commercial is definitely the way to go. Highway commercial has a lot of our auto-oriented uses, and this land use definition would fall under our transportation section. So it seems to go kind of hand in hand with those. You see a lot of drive-throughs in our C2s, larger buildings in our C2 districts, so that felt like the most comfortable place to have this sort of facility within a commercial district. And then for our industrial districts, to have light industrial and business park be permitted, and then conditional in GI. Mostly because GI, we have pretty limited space what is GI, and there are a lot of uses that only fit in GI. So we want to make sure we're not taking up space that could be used for something better in an industrial setting. So that's the first part of the text amendment. All of these that are permitted or conditional would have land use development standards. These are the standards that we use during site plan review, or if it's coming before your body for a conditional use permit, to do kind of a deeper dive onto what should be required for it to get approved. So the commercial ones, there are 12 different ones because we want to be a lot more strict with our commercial buildings because they'll be in our commercial districts. So as you can see here, the top three are a little bit, I don't want to call it fluffy, but a little fluffy. It should fit the context. It shouldn't be competing with the space that maybe is going to have commercial uses there anyway. So we don't want this to be in a heavily competed for space. Like this wouldn't be considered a high use. This is a little bit more of the low hanging fruit. Additionally, we have that loading docks can't be located on a building facade facing any public right of way, which is different from the industrial. So they would have to not be able to face those, and that any loading dock area has to be screened. Same with any service area. So a lot of this is really going towards where those loading docks can be located and how much screening is going to be required on a commercial site. We did have the discussion about the different accessory uses that go within distribution centers. So there's always going to be some component of warehousing, we assume. We thought 20% should be the largest of the floor area that could be used for that within our commercial districts. But then expanding to up to 40% for retail. Since it's a commercial district, we probably want that. So if somebody wants to go that large with a retail component to this, good for them. We love that. We did limit the building size to 20,000 square feet. We've had some friendly debate if that's enough, too much, but that seems to be the appropriate size for something in the C2 district. But we are flexible on that if someone has large feelings about it. Again, here another landscaping requirement requiring that there has to be 100% opaque on any walls or screenings that are going to be adjacent to these buildings. No outdoor storage, which is pretty self-explanatory. We did want to specify the driveway widths and cuts because warehousing and distribution typically have larger cuts available to them because it's semi-traffic. We wanted to make sure that this didn't stick out like a sore thumb in our commercial districts, so this still satisfies truck traffic, but not to the expense of our curb cuts. And then if there are any off-street loading spaces, that they have to be at least 50 feet away from the property line if the properties that are adjacent are used or zoned residentially. So we have that in some of our other land use development standards as well. So all of those would be for anything that goes into our C2 district. For the industrial, there's only 5. Again, some of that, this needs to fit into the context. We still want our industrial buildings to fit in where they go. Loading and service areas to be screened. And then we increase the warehousing to 40 for that one because warehousing is allowed within our industrial districts. And then the retail down to 20 for the industrial districts because we don't want there to be that much retail there. So I believe, well, no, I'll keep going. So concerning the other project that kind of started all this, if this were to be approved as is, they would just come back with their current comp plan amendment and rezoning application, but instead of rezoning to light industrial, that was it? It'll go to C2 instead, because it's currently C1. So this would work within that proposal. They would have to finagle their site plan to make it work. We did not use their site plan in making this text amendment. We made this out of what's the best and the worst that can happen. And that's how we write most of our zoning codes. So that's how this was developed, but it still would be an option for them to move forward in that location.
All right. Thank you. So now with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who'd like to speak on this item. Crickets. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this item?
This is a conceptual plan.
Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward, and this public hearing is now closed.
I gave them 3 million times.
Moving on to item number 11. Consideration with possible action on amendments to various sections of the Green Bay Municipal Code, Chapter 44, related to mail distribution facilities.
Thank you. We are recommending approval.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, and if I can add, it's great definitions, and Seth did a lot of great work in doing those design changes between commercial and industrial, because they really are really weirdly different, and you don't want a lot of retail in an industrial area, traffic's bad, trucks are all over the place, and vice versa in the commercial, so, yeah.
Thanks, Dave.
I gave them 10 parking spaces in the front office.
That's a little.
We'll just scan that over to them.
Right, yep, that's perfect. Oh, that's a great year.
$3,000.
Yeah, I know, right.
All right, are we on? Did you say approval recommended? Did somebody say something else?
I'll second that.
Is there a first?
We got a first.
You can be the first.
You can be
I
the
second.
first.
I second.
So we got a motion by Commissioner Colwell, and a second by Commissioner Daniels. Any further discussion? Hearing none, go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then we'll go to City Council for June 24th. Moving on to informational, director's report.
So, at our last council meeting, of course, all the coal piles were approved by the city council.
Thank
And
God.
the county board as well. So, I don't think it'll be a fast process, but it is moving forward, which is good. So we're very happy about that. We had, the council, city council appointed a new city attorney, Lacey Cochran. We are city attorney, and a new public works director, Valerie Houston. Houston?
It's Justin.
Houston?
I believe so.
Is our new public works director. So that's exciting news.
Where's the invite for Steve's party? Did it not come to me? Did you want to?
Steve's party.
I was there.
Oh, well then.
Yep, moving on. We already approved the process for, we're having 2 new TID speaks set up, TID 30, which is for the US Bank building redevelopment on Pine Street.
Thank goodness.
And then TID 31, which will be for the One Astor project across from the water department.
Oh, yeah.
Which will also include Fire Station 1 as it comes up, and then that vacant lot.
On the other side
next
of
which,
Mason.
yeah, always had that thing marked on it. But yeah, they're moving on stuff now, so we feel there's potential there for development. And then you've got your packet, the other projects that we're working on. Anything else we need to? We signed a contract to update our housing study, so we'll be getting that back September 15th. I think that's when it's due back. Since it's been about 5 years, although everything I've been seeing coming across the state is we're still very much in deficit of housing units across the board. But it'll be nice to see it defined maybe a little bit better.
And we did ask for a few different stuff out of this one.
Right.
We went less heavy on the maps and more heavy on some extra data that, would have been nice to have, but.
Yep,
Is that study downtown Green Bay or Green Bay, greater Green Bay?
Green Bay, the entirety of the city. I think a little bit how it pertains to the suburbs as well.
About 5 years old. It's 5 years old?
5 years old, exactly.
Wasn't it, I'm trying to remember, wasn't it like we were deficit 500 or so units on that last
It's
one?
like 3,000.
Yeah.
Like yearly, annually?
Yep, 500, yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's just, I know we know a little bit better, we hear people coming in and saying like, there's so many apartments, like, do we really need more? And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
I think we
Yeah.
do.
Well, and Cheryl, I don't know if you have that number on top of your head or close. How many units did we do last year? Like, a whole bunch.
1,050.
We're currently tracking 1,050 units, and these are just projects that our department is working very hard on, closely with. There's more than that, of course, beyond that.
Doesn't count the private development that's happening with that.
Right, and funding, so I mean, like, the stuff for the Kosmowski stuff over there on Sussex aren't being counted in this count, I don't
No.
believe. The Bigelow homes on Finger and the ones on Atkinson aren't being counted in this calculation.
Correct.
A lot of our
So-
single-family subdivisions, because we're
Right.
assisting them.
Yeah. And then we go give a R2 to an R3.
Well.
But honestly, what a
the
blessing to be
beauty
able to
is the-
build 41 houses in the middle of Green Bay, like brand new, like that's.
Right,
Well,
and the variety.
non-traditional.
Yeah, no,
Right.
it's-
But the variety of housing too is important.
Right.
And the housing study showed us one thing, we're short on everything.
Right.
And, the smaller lot sizes are super popular. and-
Well, that reminds me of
You
those
know, the
houses on
market is
Western
actually
that got
coming back with
built.
that.
Those little houses, those 4 on Western
Mhm.
that got built.
Yeah. Well, and you see the popularity in townhouses,
Oh,
3 or
right.
more unit townhouses.
Right, yeah. We know how somebody feels about that.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Detachable, something, something. whatever.
Yeah. All right. All right, date of the, oh, go
I
on.
want to add one more thing. So our comp plan, and you'll see it in the next one, was originally going to be coming on July 1st. We're going to have a special public hearing. We're pushing that back. So some of the things that we're doing, no big fault of the plan or anything like that, but we're going to be doing a little bit more outreach to some of the commissions, other commissions of the city, such as Equal Rights, Sustainability Landmarks, Bike and Ped. We're going to do some more outreach with the town of Scott and Oneida, so they get more time to review. And so it's probably going to be pushed back to September.
Okay.
And we're looking at the week of September 2nd, so the day after Memorial Day.
And when
Sunday,
school
June
starts.
4th. Yeah, when school starts.
The day school starts.
Oh,
It
shit.
starts on the 2nd?
We didn't think of that. It does start on the second.
Yeah, no, we passed a sign today, and my kid's like, oh, September 2nd. I'm like,
I forgot all about that. I should have, as a parent, known that.
I didn't even think about
Me
that.
neither.
Okay, but I just wanted to let you know
Far
that,
away.
so, but it'll be online
Plan
with a
back
lot
there.
of time to be able to review it,
Okay.
and other people, neighborhood associations and whatnot.
Okay.
So, we'll take a look at that
Right.
September 2nd.
so what you're saying is the date of the next regular meeting is Monday, July 7th of 2025?
Very
Excellent.
well said.
Is that it?
Mhm.
Move to adjourn. Second.
Motion by Vice Chair Williams, second by Commissioner Rubinski. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. This meeting's adjourned.
Bye, Kelsey.